And there is a lot going on. We still have a whole bunch of people without power, specifically in Nashville. So we're going to continue to cover that for you, as well as many other topics out there today. We do have Senator Marsha Blackburn. She's going to be on with us at 6:35 here on Nashville's Morning News. Brian Wilson will join us at 7. And Senator Bill Hagerty may be calling in as well at some point in the 8 o'clock hour. So we have a lot to get to. Governor Bill Lee was on with Matt Murphy yesterday. Sam, this is audio only. The governor was on with Matt Murphy yesterday. And this is big news, and it kind of flew under the radar, I believe. But Governor Lee now says that he has signed an executive order to try to get the roads open faster so that crews can get to the power lines quicker to fix them. This was Governor Bill Lee yesterday with Murphy Show.
Part of the challenge right now is the county systems that are struggling to keep up with debris cleanup and whatnot. So I actually signed an executive order today that would authorize TDOT to do some work which previously could only be done by the counties, because TDOT got the roads in good shape all over the state, and because of that we have resources to help counties with cleanup. So we were prepared, and the response has been really good. Nevertheless, there's still people without power and without heat, and it's a really tough spot, but there is a lot of work being done. I was with linemen last night, actually, at 11:30, and they're out there, been doing 18-hour shifts. They're working all night long. I was with TDOT workers today that are out there 24/7. So the teams are working. And in fact, we've got linemen coming from other states or that are already here from other states, because we're the state that got hit the worst as far as the ice and the outages. So there's a full-on effort, and progress is very steady.
Very steady indeed. Some would say slow but steady, but they're working on it. I was talking about this in the 5 o'clock hour. Some of the people that I have heard from and what they're going through, particularly a friend of mine in Bellevue, one of the hardest hit areas, and she talks about how they are still without power in Bellevue. She also says that AT&T phones have very limited signals. Verizon does seem to be okay. And that people are using backyards as refrigerators. They can't get out of their neighborhoods as well. They're using plastic to tape up rooms and cooking outside. And, just everything that people without power have had to go through. And, Joan, I don't know if you've been without power yourself during your time in Maryland on the East Coast.
Oh, yeah.
When I was in Fort Wayne, we were down for like about 2 or 3 days. And you do whatever you can to try to stay warm. And, some people are trapped inside of their neighborhood because of the ice and they just can't get out.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to this. It's not just, well, can't you go to a hotel? Well, if you can, number one, afford a hotel, but those are expensive, number one. And number two, there's people that are trapped and they can't get out because of the ice. And so that's why, Bill Lee, the governor there, and he's talking about signing this executive order to allow TDOT to help to clear the roads so that the line crews can get in there to try and fix the power problems that we have. We have 110,000 people in Nashville that are out of power still. They're working hard. I covered extensively in the 5 o'clock hour these accusations from some on social media that are saying that NES, Nashville Electric, they don't have enough people to get the power back on. And they're actually saying, no, we don't want help from certain people because they are union, and that NES just is refusing to pay those union wages. Those are scurrilous accusations that are online. And again, I covered that extensively in the 5 o'clock hour. NES is saying that is not true, that they're bringing in a whole bunch of people. In fact, an additional 700 they have brought on here in the last 24 hours. And they have said that, we have union employees. So the issue is not that we don't want to bring in union people. The problem is just that this is, once in a 30 or 40-year storm. And this ice that they got, the ice that we got, is just, it was a massive, massive storm, and they're doing everything that they can to get through it. One of the things that I would ask is, okay, so does does more line workers, because that's the accusation, they don't have enough line workers, and because they don't have enough line workers, they don't have everybody back up and running. The question is, does more line workers, would that translate to getting everyone's power back on? Because we do still have power outages in North Nashville, in West Nashville, Bellevue area, Hendersonville, Elysian Fields, Madison, East Nashville, Goodlettsville, Forest Hills, and Brentwood, among many other places. And so, Nashville Electric, they're going to have to deal with these accusations and regain the trust of the people in Nashville because, the question is, okay, so we had 300,000 plus that were without power. Now, a couple of days later, we are now down to 108, 110,000 that are still without power. And is that considered good or not? Like, how do you gauge the success or failure of a mission? I think that's one of the big questions that are out there. That executive order, by the way, that Bill Lee signed, which, again, is important, he did mention that what this will do is allow those state resources through TDOT to be used at the county level to clear those roads.
They are still dangerous, and there's a lot of trees still out on roads, and crews have to clean that up. And in a lot of counties, that is up to the county road crews. TDOT does state highways and interstates, but when you get to county roads, that's a county issue. And we have the resources because TDOT's been planning for it and kind of got ahead of the game a little bit. And that EO just allows TDOT to then support that debris cleanup on county roads. Hopefully that will, speed up their process and get those roads open. One of the biggest challenges is getting a road open so road crews, so linemen can get to the power poles, right? So if they can't get to the poles, and they have chainsaws of their own, but it just slows them down. So if we can get TDOT workers on a county road to clean up a passageway, then they can get power to the most remote folks that are still sitting there without a generator. Maybe they're sitting there in the cold and it's 15 degrees tonight.
Yeah, remember that you have TDOT or the county, they've got to clear out the roads of trees and ice and such so that the power companies can come in and do their jobs. There was a lot of planning. It's really interesting. We had a guy from NES call up in the 5 o'clock hour, and he was talking about how they've been working 16-hour shifts, and he didn't really have anything to say. He didn't know anything about the accusations that NES would not bring on union workers, which is a story that was covered on Fox 17. It was part of a big accusation that was going on social media that NES refused to bring on union workers, and therefore they were short on employees to get the power back up and running. But, you just heard the governor on Murphy's show yesterday. There was a lot of planning, and it does seem, at least to me, like the planning was spot on. One of my questions would be okay, so you did have crews in place, and TDOT was ready to go. The power companies are doing what they do, although, again, we do still have a lot of people without power this morning. So ultimately, my question is, you had a lot of these power company employees, these contractors that were based in or on standby in North Carolina, waiting for, the storm to pass, the ice storm to pass, and so they could come in and immediately get to work. You've got NES employees, and then you've got these contractors that, they come in and they supplement the employees for NES to try to get the power back on. And my only question would be, why can't we have them based here in Nashville? If they're waiting to come in and they're in North Carolina, storm passes, then the question is, as the storm passes, you're talking about at least half a day to a full day to travel into Nashville. Could that process be done quicker if they were waiting and staged in the city of Nashville? It is 6:17. So a guy called, and that's why the traffic was a little awkward. The guy was on the phone with Sam, and he posed a question
So
about Nashville Electric Service.
This guy may or may not have been, or continues to be, or may have been, an electrical worker.
Anonymous.
Yeah, he was anonymous. He said if it's not about rates or unions, then how come the only time an IEBW employee worker is hired is when it's state appointed? So if NES, his claim is that if NES is left up to their own devices to make the choice on hiring people, they go non-union almost all the time because the rates are lower.
Okay.
And the other union reference, SCIUW, whatever.
SCIW.
They're not even apparently on the same scale as IEBW when it comes to line work.
Okay. All right, very good. Yeah, there's different unions. I don't pretend to even know all of the different unions that are involved here. I know that there are a lot of different unions. You've got different unions. You have guys that and women who are not in the union. And when these kinds of things happen, where you've got these big storms and you've got these agreements with other states where, we've got, big power outages, and then we got all of these workers to come in from other states to supplement state employees or union employees or utility employees, whatever it is. Well, I don't know if those people are union or required to be union or not. And I don't think, can I just be honest? I don't think that, people in West Nashville right now who don't have power, I don't think they give a crap if these employees are union or not. They just want their power back on. Because they've been without power for 3 days now, 2 or 3 days now. So,
and NES is also saying that they may not get power until Friday or beyond. So
wow.
And we're not talking about a period of time where it's warm enough to survive.
Yeah.
Temps this morning we're at 19 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
well, and that's what Bill Lee was talking about how it is really cold. Matt Murphy did ask him, when will the power be back on for everyone?
Yeah, that's hard to know because you got people in some of these rural counties that are way down the end of the line. And we know that those folks are going to be hard to reach, and it may take days to get there.
I mean,
yeah,
I'm sort of stupefied because I just don't understand. Okay, so with NES, if you need more people, bring in more people. And because they just brought in, I think they said about 700 more people. Well, okay, if you brought in an additional 200 or an additional 300, then could you get all the power back on within a couple of days? I know that it's not easy, and I know that there's a lot of things, a lot of calculations and a lot of things that they have to deal with, but it just seems to me like if you've still got 109, 110,000 people that are without power in Davidson County, then you need to surge that county and get these people back up. And I know that it's difficult to just say, well, you're going to have to wait. But here's the deal. Some of these people can't wait. Some of these people, they are in rural communities, really rural communities, or not so rural. I mean, you got people in Bellevue, in neighborhoods that are like, our power's still not back on. And it's not like Bellevue is in the middle of nowhere.
There's also things like, convalescent homes, rehab centers, hospitals. I mean,
yeah.
Well, of course, they're going to be on generator. They're going to have some backup power, but those systems aren't designed to last for forever.
Right. Well, and I think those are the places where they get those back up and running first.
Yeah.
There's like a hierarchy of who gets their power turned back on first. And usually it's like the hospitals and, those kinds of areas, convalescent hospitals and so forth. They get their power turned back on first. Again, it's like a hierarchy. The Nashville Fire and Police Departments, by the way, they have opened up their stations as warming centers. You also have community shelters being opened up as well. They've been open for several days now. There's one at Nashville's Fairgrounds, by the way. Pets are allowed there. Bill Lee and a lot of folks in government are talking about these warming shelters and, resources where people can, go to stay warm.
Where people are going to be without heat for a long period of time, we have 115 warming centers that are open statewide, so people can find a place if they can have a neighbor get them transport to those spots. But we have overnight shelters, 100 of them around the state. TN.gov/TEMA has all the information about that. Those warming centers are important. We've actually sadly have 7 folks that have lost their life in this, and some of them from hypothermia. So it is a difficult spot for a lot of people. You know, we got nonprofits all over the state that are food banks and warming centers and Salvation Army and Red Cross, and those are Tennessee volunteers kind of engaging churches all over the state. So be encouraged. Tennesseans are doing what they do, and they're working really hard to take care of one another.
All right, this is Dave calling real quickly. He's out in Lafayette. And Dave, what is going on out there?
We're entering day 4 with no electricity. It went out Sunday, but overnight last night, I live out in the county, but overnight last night, the city of Lafayette apparently had a water main break. So there's a lot of us in Macon County now that has no electricity or water.
Wow. And, so no electricity, Dave, and no water. Now, can you get out of your neighborhood? Can you get out of your town or off your property? Yes,
I can get off my property. It's funny. I'm out looking for a porta-john at the moment on a job site. But yeah, because we have no water. You can't flush the toilet. You know, so it's I know Nashville's a big city, but we need help.
Yeah, I mean, clearly you do. How are the people in your general area, how are they dealing with all of this? How are they doing spirit-wise? How are they doing psychologically?
Well, it's tough. I mean, I was fortunate to get a propane bottle. I'm sorry. And, I'm warm, but it's, like I said, it's just tough right now.
Are you alone?
My wife is at her son's house. I took her there Sunday. Yeah. But, I want to be home because, things, I have to take care of stuff at home. But I've taken her to her son's house. He lives in Kentucky. So they're fine. But yeah, I'm just kind of toughing it out at home and, doing what I have to do.
I don't know. How do you find a porta potty? Like, it's six. Dave, it's like 6:25 in the morning, and you're running around trying to find a porta potty. I feel terribly for you, Dave.
Anywhere there's houses being built, any kind of job site like that, there's usually, a facility that can be found.
Okay. Well, Dave, listen, I wish I had something else besides prayer to tell you. I wish I had a porta potty in my back pocket that I could send you via, I
understand.
Yeah.
But no, I just wanted to let people know that, it's not only Nashville. It's, it's us country folk too.
Yeah, and I know you country folk are tough, Dave, and good luck and stay in touch with us if you would, okay?
Dave, we'll be praying. Hang in there, bud.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, that breaks my stinking heart.
Yeah, you know what? When we get a call like that from Dave, I start tearing up. I really do, and it's like, oh man. And
you know what? He's not the only one. Like, can you imagine how many others are out there and they've got the same experience? And
yeah, and he's without his loved ones. He's without his wife. So yeah, he is all alone. It sounds like
he is alone. Yeah.
So prayers for everybody. I know it's tough. Let's get right to the Newsmaker Hotline where Senator Marsha Blackburn is joining us. And Senator, I'm sorry we're running so late. We've been taking some phone calls from folks that still don't have power here in Nashville. I know that, obviously you know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's been rough here for a lot of folks.
Well, we're one of those houses. I'm back in D.C. working, but my husband is at home, and we're one of those houses that we still do not have power. And I certainly can empathize with those individuals that are still trying to get their homes back to normal. And it is really quite frustrating. I do know that NES had a high of 230,000 customers, and now they're down to about 125,000 that are still without power. And I also know that the National Guard, the Highway Patrol, local law enforcement, EMS, Public Works. They're all out there working, and God bless them for working. But, you know, it's like my husband said, we're going to have plenty of firewood for anybody that wants to load a pickup truck of firewood because of all the tree damage. And I think many people are in the same boat. And we would all like to get homes, get back in our homes, be able to assess the damage and get those repairs started. And, you know, we've had 8 weather-related fatalities in the state, and we mourn that loss of life. I will say this, I'm grateful that Governor Lee got the emergency declaration into the president before the storm hit. So FEMA was able to activate resources to TEMA immediately. The president did us a solid. He approved that the minute it hit his desk. So that's a really hopeful sign.
Yeah, it is, Senator. And we can always, I know that here in Tennessee, we can always count on President Trump. And I think the Governor Lee has done a great job in getting all of the staging planned. So good luck on your home. I know that there's a lot of people that are listening right now and, looking for the power to be turned back on as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's turn to some matters in Washington, D.C., because there's a lot going on.
Sure.
And I got to tell you, we'll get to Minnesota here in a second, but related, the Democrats are threatening a government shutdown over DHS funding. Basically, they want to, in one way or another, cut the funding for ICE and cut the funding also for the Border Patrol, and they're willing to shut down the government over it. Here we are on this Wednesday, the 28th of January. Have you heard anything new about the looming government shutdown? I think Friday night, right? Friday night into Saturday morning.
That's correct. And we will probably be here Friday working on these issues. But we really do not think, most of the Democrats do not have an appetite for shutting the government down. Bear in mind, FEMA funding, all your emergency response funding comes out of that Homeland Security budget. And we know also that Tom Homan has gone into Minnesota and he is working on a reset with the governor, with the mayor, and hopefully we will see some change there. But most people do not have an appetite for a shutdown. And one of the important things, Dan, is that we have got to get off this Biden bloated budget and onto a Trump and Republican budget. And in these discretionary accounts, we're actually spending less than what Biden was spending. And ICE is appropriated less than what ICE was appropriated under the CR. So their arguments are just, they don't like Trump, they don't like Republican control, they want to cause chaos, and to think that they would defund DHS when we have had a massive winter storm that has impacted 200 million Americans. I mean, that is just unseemly.
Well, and we'll have to see if Chuck Schumer and the Democrats actually decide to go down that road, because I think you're right. I think there's a lot of, they know that they were on the losing end of the narrative last time around. We'll have to see what they decide to do this time. You mentioned President Trump looking for a reset in Minnesota, and there seems to be some sort of a debate, Senator, as to whether or not the president is retreating a bit in Minnesota after the shooting of this Alex Preddy. Some are saying that it's a bit of a retreat. Others are saying that the president is actually getting what he wants, which is more help at the local level. What do you think about all that?
Yes, and indeed, what Homeland Security, Secretary Noem, they had tried to work with local law enforcement. And Dan, I have used the example of what we've done in Memphis and what we've done, what you see in Minnesota. In Memphis, you've got a mayor, you've got a police chief, you've got over 20 federal agencies, the National Guard, the Highway Patrol, the TBI. They are all working together. In 120 days, the crime rate has come down over 50%, the lowest it has been since 2001. And you are seeing over 6,000 arrests, over right about 1,000 illegal weapons taken off the street, and the recovery of 148 missing children. And Memphis is kind of the model for how to get things done. And then in Minneapolis, they have not opened the jails. They have not been turning these criminals over. And that is what Homan would like to see done. So that way they're not having to go out in the community after someone has been released from jail then and apprehend people that are violent criminals, murderers, rapists, have committed robbery, have committed aggravated assault, child sexual assault. These are all people that are being picked up. These are people that have orders of deportation against them, but have been shielded and have not been deported. And what they're looking for is to be able to have these individuals turned over to them instead of being released from the jail, and that way they can carry out the trial or they can carry out the deportation. They want to do targeted operations, and they would like to move for that. And they would like the cooperation of local law enforcement and be able to take the temperature down. You know, when you look at states like Louisiana, I think, and Texas and Tennessee, you've probably had more arrests take place in some of our states than in Minnesota, but they're not headlines. And it is because we have great sheriffs and police chiefs and great elected officials at the local level that are saying, we don't want these criminals in our community here. Go ahead and we will turn them over to you. And I think that that's what they want to see in Minnesota and getting this on track. Tom Homan's a good man. I think he'll be able to do that.
Senator, let me ask you this question. Senator Marsha Blackburn is joining us. The polling, and I don't buy the polling, but there's polling out there that says that President Trump is losing independence. There's a number of reasons for that. Number one, they're saying the economy is still a challenge, which I understand. There's still some challenges there with the economy. But just from a sheer political standpoint, you've got a lot more experience in politics than I do. Do you really believe that President Trump and Republicans are losing independence?
And you're not seeing that much attrition among independents. What they want is to see problems addressed. And Donald Trump is a president of action. He assesses a problem and he decides what a solution is, and then he moves forward. That's called real leadership. And as I say so many times, the difference is, and what you need is leadership is about leading people and building out that narrative and saying, this is the problem, this is how we solve it, and building the team to solve that problem. Management is looking at assets. And what President Trump is doing is say he's assessing these problems. The economy, inflation was high. It was 9.1%. It is now down to around 2.5%, 2.6, 2.7. And that's a positive step, still not low enough. And the price of gas and groceries has not come down enough. We also have to realize that under Biden's 4 years, they added $8 trillion to the debt in those 4 years. And that elevated government spending drove up that inflation. This is why it's important that we pass these appropriations bills and get off that Biden budget and onto a Trump budget. So there is plenty of work left to do. And, you know, we spend a lot of time doing cleanup work, yes. Decisions that were made and had an adverse effect. You look at what happened with energy production and the amount of time we have put into baseload energy, whether it's a new clean coal or nuclear, and building out an energy generation process in Tennessee that is going to help to get the cost of energy down. You look at what is happening with hydrocarbons and fuel and gas at the pump and getting that price down. That means, yes, indeed, we continue to open up these leases in the Gulf and in Alaska and set a target for how many leases they want to hit by the time we get to 2030. And that production capability, that refinery capability, in keeping that in place, whether it's our large refineries or our small refineries, that is going to help to get the price of gas down. And the $12 billion supplement payment that the president just made to the ag community, that is to help them so that we're getting crops in the ground and focusing on food security. So there are steps that are being taken that are going to help. The Working Families Tax Cut, or Big Beautiful Bill as it was called, went into effect at the first of the year. As people are filing their income tax, they are going to see that they're going to get a larger refund. Our senior citizens are going to benefit. Every senior citizen is going to get a $6,000 bonus deduction. And Dan, as you know, I have worked for years to get the tax off Social Security for our seniors, and we achieved that in the bill, and I was thrilled we got that provision in. So a couple that is 65 and over, married filing jointly, they're going to have a $12,000 bonus deduction when they get to the bottom of that page, and that will get that tax off those Social Security earnings that they are reporting on their income tax filing. People that work on tips, no tax. People that are working overtime, they're going to see no tax. So those are provisions that are going to make a difference, and those refunds are going to be larger.
Well, you're absolutely right, and I know that you've been on the front lines of dealing with the online ticket scalpers and how Americans have been exploited by that. I know it's not necessarily top of the headlines right now, but you know, this is something that if you've bought tickets to a concert, try to buy these tickets online, it is not only really difficult, but it's also really expensive. There's been some hearings recently on this, and can you give us an update on that?
Yes, the president actually did an executive order on it a couple of months ago, and I have a hearing today. Live Nation Ticketmaster will be in front of me, as well as Kid Rock, Robert Ritchie. Our Kid Rock is going to be one of the witnesses that are here. And important to realize is that these scalpers and these bots that are scooping up these tickets, it drives up the price sometimes 100, 200, 300, 400%. And they go in, they scrape these. Ticketmaster has said, we can't do anything about it. So the Federal Trade Commission has sued them. I've got them in front of me today. I chair the committee that oversees this. So we're going to have a hearing. We have got to make certain that if you're going to a performance, a show, a Broadway show, a sporting event, that these bots are not scooping these up. The resellers are putting them online. Ticketmaster makes a part of the business all along the way. And one of the things that I pointed out when we had a hearing on this a few years ago and pointed out to the Ticketmaster CEO, who at that point said, well, we can't stop all these bots. I said, wait a minute, the local power company gets hit several times a day by bots. I mean, hundreds of times. Of people that are trying to get into their critical infrastructure. The local power company is able to stop the bots. But you, Ticketmaster, the biggest in the business, want to tell me you can't police the bots? I mean, this is just ridiculous. So what they've done is turn a blind eye to this and have allowed these bots to scrape these tickets and these resellers to make a lot of money, and then it drives people out of the marketplace. And when an artist is hearing from their fans and being said, why are your tickets so expensive? The artist has nothing to do with this because the artist gets none of that money. as it goes through that process of the bots and the scraping and the reselling and the jacking up of the price.
Now, Senator, most important question. What was Kid Rock's reaction when you told him that he had to wear a suit today?
You know what? I told him he could come in and wear. It doesn't matter to me what he's going to wear, and I'm just delighted that he is going to show up. And it's Gene Simmons from KISS was a witness in a hearing that we had at Judiciary Committee about AI. And he showed up wearing black leather and sunglasses. So
I saw that.
Yeah, I just want to get it all on the record, because making certain that we protect the integrity of the performance industry, the music industry, our sports, and that people are able to buy these tickets and enjoy these events and be able to take their family to these events. That is what we want to do. And this is an unfair trade practice. It is interstate commerce. We have jurisdiction over this. The Federal Trade Commission is conducting their investigation. As I said, there is a suit that is out there, and some of us have done an amicus brief on this that I have led. And we have to protect this industry. It is important to our state.
All right. That's all we have the time for. But Senator Marsha Blackburn, always great to have you on. And good luck with your power. I know that a lot of people are experiencing the same thing.